just because I know we have a few people who asked last week when we scheduled things if they could leave to go do some material distribution, and I want to make sure that everyone has all this information specific to their fellows. Okay. And if you're having any tech trouble, please feel free to chat Abby. She's also going to be putting an optional note catcher into the chat, and it also has a lot of our thinking questions on it. So even if you're not taking notes, it can be helpful to keep up. That way you can refer back to them. So thank you all for taking time to be here to plan for coaching your fellows this year. I'm really excited to see you all. I'm excited that we could do some differentiated PD this year for fellow advisors versus AT advisors. Okay, and Mihaela, I feel like I've met all of you several times. Her director of fellow development. Awesome, and let's make sure we introduce ourselves if we don't know each other when we're going into breakout rooms as well, but we should be with our campus. So I think you'll all know each other pretty well here once we get into breakout rooms. So just quickly going over the agenda, we're going to start with some team building, and then we're going to go over the Q1 scope, or the first 6 weeks is also what we could call it for our fellows. We're going to talk about Gateway 1, and there's some important updates for those of you who are returning advisors. And then we're going to do some advisor buddy time at the end, where our new advisors will get to meet with returning advisors and ask all of your advising questions. And then we will close out. So let's jump on in. So we are going to start with a team builder, and it's called the 5-finger challenge, but we could also call it the appropriate version of never have I ever. And we're not going to use the sentence stem never have I ever. So, but first, here in a minute, we're going to take 1 minute and think of 2 to 3 unique or special, basically facts about yourself. So they could be experiences that you've had, things that you know how to do. So for example, you could say, I visited 20 countries, I've adopted a dog. These things aren't all true for me. So these are just examples. I can make pistachio ice cream. I can't, I wish. And then once we start playing the game, once we have our facts written down, we're going to all hold up 5 fingers. And then I will go first, and then I'll call the next person to go. And then they will call the following person to go. And you just say your 1 sentence fact about yourself. And then if someone else has done the same thing or has the same knowledge or experience as you, they're going to put a finger down, and make sure you hold it up so we can see. And then any comments or clarifying questions, please type into the chat. That way we're not talking over each other, and we can still see each other's comments and comment on each other's experiences and ask clarifying questions, since I'm sure some people have had some really interesting experiences. And then we will play until everyone has gone, or until we're all out of fingers, whichever happens after everyone has had a turn or has been within 10 minutes, so I can make sure we're staying on time. Does anyone have any questions about how to play? Okay, let's take 30 seconds and come up with 3 facts about ourselves. Okay, can I see a thumbs up when everyone's ready? Give you 10 more seconds of think time, and then you can also think while you're listening to other people. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So let's all get our 5 fingers up, please. Thank you. Okay, I'll go first. So I have been on a hot air balloon ride. Let's see. Kat, take it away, because I see you've been on a hot air balloon ride too. Oh, Kat, you gotta unmute yourself.
I've been in a hospital in a foreign country. Looking at you, Abby.
Would you like me to go next?
Yes.
Great. Kat and I swapped hospital stories over the summer. I have been homeschooled for part of my life.
I
I
think
don't
it's
think
just
anyone
you.
put what? I think
It's just you.
just me. Dang it. Okay, then let's go with Nikki Nutton. Go ahead and you go next.
Dang, I don't have any good ones. I went to school, well, college for elementary education.
And then Nikki, who would you like to go next?
Ooh, Harper.
Hey, I've taught in a foreign country. Let's have who put their fingers down? Stephanie.
I didn't put my finger down, but that's okay. I can pick up basically anything with my toes.
We might have to see this at some point.
So I have really long legs. It's a long way down there, so I just learned to pick up things with my toes.
There. Stephanie, who would you like to go next?
Natasha.
I got my American driver's license at the age of 26. Did somebody put their finger down?
I didn't see anything.
Oh, okay. Sandy, you can go next.
I've gone skydiving. Right. Let's see, Alex.
I have fostered dogs. Or fostered any type of animal, I guess. We can make it bigger.
And Alex, who would you like to go next?
I didn't see who put their fingers down, but Chelsea, go for it.
I teach in the city where I was born.
Was anyone else born in Denver?
Like
Okay,
currently or in the, sorry, I should have chatted that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't specify. Bethany.
I have been rappelling off of a cliff into a river. I hadn't seen any fingers. Maybe.
I saw Emily.
Laura's out of fingers.
We'll keep playing until everyone's had a turn. If you haven't had a turn, if you just want to like put your other hand up and then we'll see. So Emily, Kayla,
Let's go with Kayla.
and Laura.
This is really silly. This is always my go-to. I've never had a cavity. Ouch. Anyone? Anyone?
Did anybody put their fingers down? We've all had cavities. Kayla, who would you like to go next? We've got Emily and Laura.
Emily, go for it.
Great. I speak French. No? Okay, Laura.
This is a random one, but I can balance a pumpkin on my unusually flat head.
We might also have to see that one at some point. So, all right. Thank you all for playing along. It's fun to know some random facts about you all, and there's some things that I'm definitely going to follow up on throughout the year. So I'm excited to see Stephanie pick things up with her toes, and Laura balance pumpkin on her head. And if I need French translation, I know to reach out to Emily. So thank you all for engaging with me. So we're going to dive in and talk about the fellowship Q1 scope, or the first 6 weeks of school. Fun picture from the first day of school. So, and as we're diving in, I just want to pull out some bottom lines, and then here in a minute, we're going to get an opportunity to actually look at a document that has the Q1 scope detailed out, and it's detailed out by kindergarten to 2nd grade fellows, and then 3rd through 5th grade fellows, and then ECE fellows have a table down at the bottom of the document, and it will also be updated. I have a meeting scheduled with you, Alex and Kayla, tomorrow, which I hope you both saw. So we will get more information then. But the bottom lines for everyone is that fellows will be teaching 2 to 4 smaller groups. And I say smaller because for ELD, I know that we're not totally sure about what the group sizes will be, because it depends on how many students we have in each level of ELD class. So it'll shake out. I know we won't have more than 24 in a class though. And then this also includes FRS in the all block, and then also CKLA. And then pre-K, we will have some different plans specific for ECE content. And then we're still planning to have a slow release, and you'll see in the document there's a possible half day the week of September 28th and the week of October 5th, and also a possible full day the week of October 12th. And I'm saying possible just because this is the first time any of us are teaching this virtual schedule. It's the first time any of us are teaching these contents in a lot of cases. And I want to make sure that we have a solid foundation set up before we're having fellows take over and lead on contents for a half day. And then we'll evaluate this takeover plan after the second week of virtual school. And I will be asking for feedback from all of you to see how it's been going and to get your opinion on what you think fellows will be ready for, so we can make sure we set both our fellows and our kiddos up for success. Okay. So here in a minute, we're going to have 3 minutes to review the Q1 scope, which Abby will type into the chat. And while you're reviewing it, please be thinking what excites you, what challenges do you anticipate, and be thinking through how you can best support your fellow in the first quarter. And then we're going to go into some partner share time, and you're sharing with people who are on similar grade levels. So hopefully you can talk about similar contents as well. And then I'm going to pull up a collab board here once we start reviewing, so you can type your questions in as they come up. So we'll do 3 minutes to independently review. And then at the end of 3 minutes, we're going to go into partners and talk about these framing questions, which are also on the note catcher. And then you can type your questions into the collab board that entire time. And then we'll come back together and I will answer questions to the best of my ability. Okay. So 3 minutes, Abby will chat that. Yep, Abby already chatted it into the chat. It's a lot of times to say chat. So let's take 3 minutes. I'll play some piano music for us and it'll let you know when when it goes off. That means our 3 minutes is up and we will go into breakout rooms. Feel free to chat logistic questions into the chat, but save the rest of your questions for the collab board, which is now up. Them. We wouldn't we've takeover days on the days or for the contents that you and your fellow are both in, those synchronous contents like math workshop, and in some cases I think it's like full group CKLA or it might be full group EL. Your fellow would actually lead that content that day and you would coach them on that content. You would keep your same small group, so you wouldn't be expected to coach them necessarily on ELD or CKLA. And then Alex Berglund's question, what are the specific skills we are looking for while observing our fellow teach? There's more to come on that next week when we go into action steps and coaching. So I'm going to hold on that question because you're going to get a lot of information about it next week at our advisor PD that we have with ATs as well. And then Stephanie, thank you for asking this question. How will I coach CKLA since I will be teaching CKLA at the same time? So we are going to see, we're still looking into whether or not there's a way fellows can video themselves while they're teaching. If not, then we will probably take a practice protocol where fellows would during your coaching meeting, like for example, say they teach 5 minutes of CKLA, you would coach them during your coaching meeting and give them their action step during that practice. So hopefully that answers that. And we'll go into that more during our coaching PD next week. And once I have more information about videoing during virtual school. So thank you for these Great questions. Hopefully these will all come to light in the next couple of weeks. And then will pre-KTAs be able to join on whole class Zoom meetings with our classes? Thinking about getting FaceTime with TA and helping to monitor the Zoom room. Kayla and Alex, when we meet tomorrow, if you could just bring your schedule for when you're thinking to have those whole class Zoom meetings. And then we will plan accordingly and do our best to make sure that they can be there for those whole class Zoom meetings. So, but we'll check the schedule and see. So thank you for putting that in there. And I will make sure that I bring that up in our meeting tomorrow. Okay, so let's go back to those questions we had. Does anyone want to share what you and your partner talked about for what excites you, what challenges you anticipate, and how you think you can best support your fellow in the first quarter? I'd love to hear from 2 people.
Nope. Yep. I keep forgetting to hit unmute. Yeah, whatever. It's all good. We actually talked about how exciting it is that our fellows are going to be jumping right into ELD and CKLA and All Blacks, and it's very nerve-wracking, but like what a great opportunity to get better faster by getting that immediate practice.
Thanks, Kat. Yeah, they're going to get a lot of experience with instruction right off the bat this year, but I think it's going to look very different instead of focusing on management so much at the beginning of the year, since it's pretty different in virtual settings. So, and let's hear from one more person.
I'm just really excited that pre-K has the opportunity to be a part of the fellowship again. Thanks, guys. We haven't had fellows since Relay has been involved, and since like 2014, 15. So that's exciting.
Yeah, Kayla was once a pre-K fellow with Alex. So hopefully Kayla is sharing that same excitement down there. You're down on my screen, so.
Very excited.
Awesome. All right. Great. If you think of any additional questions about the Q1 scope, please feel free to reach out. You all have my email and my phone number, hopefully, and if you don't, I will put it in the chat here at the end, but please feel free to reach out with any questions that you have.
Where are we gonna get the link for the recording? Because I also have to leave soon for the Creekside second grade registration night.
I will email it out to all of you in case you want to reference it back, even if you don't need to leave early for registration night.
Thank you. And then looking at the fellowship plan for Q1, have the fellow responsibilities been cross-referenced with the most updated schedules of lead teachers and their fellows? I'm just thinking in terms of like logistics, if they're able to.
Yeah, so I cross-referenced them most recently. I think, what is today, Thursday? It was either on Tuesday or Wednesday, and I noticed that deliberate practice and ELD have a conflict. So I'm working together with principals to change that to accommodate, to make sure that fellows are able to leave for deliberate practice and meet their relay requirements, and they're also able to teach ELD for our EL students. So awesome. Okay, so now we are going to talk about Gateway 1, which is now called Expectations and Mindsets. And before we jump right into talking about Gateway 1, I just want to give some bigger picture framing around gateways. So there are 4 gateways throughout the year. I think there's technically 5, but the 5th gateway is just like fellows get a teaching job for the next year so they can continue in the relay program. But there are 4 gateways that we are all very involved in and that you will be supporting your fellow through. And these are to monitor progress throughout the year, and they're broken down. So the first one is expectations and mindsets. There's also an intro to new material. We also have like a management and culture gateway, which we will reevaluate when that will be happening this year. But these are to monitor fellow progress throughout the year and to make sure that we are preparing fellows to have their own classroom the year after their fellowship. Right, and so let's jump into Gateway 1, expectations and mindsets. But first, let's talk about why relay. And so we're going to quickly watch a video, and I just realized that I closed out of it on one of my, I closed out of it on one of my forms, but luckily we actually have a former fellow here who is now an amazing, I don't see her now actually. Harper, are you here still?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh my gosh, you're right next to me too, and I couldn't find you. Who is now an amazing teacher over at Creekside. And Harper, would you mind actually just sharing about your experience first, and then I will pull up the video while you're sharing a couple of highlights from your experience as a fellow at Relay.
Sure. Yeah, I think the fellowship and your experience in Relay are really aligned. So I had a really wonderful experience working with Ginny Gibson, who's just an incredible teacher over at Fletcher now. She was my advisor. And so I think just a huge highlight for me was just really building that relationship with my advisor, really kind of soaking all of that in. And I really appreciated how the Relay gateways kind of were giving this gradual release as I was learning, these skills and classroom management and learning how to create really robust plans through Relay and also with my advisor. So it really helps support as a learning teacher, it supports you each step of the way so that by the end, you feel really, really prepared to have your own classroom. So yeah, I had a really great experience with it. I think also just the unpredictability of life and teaching and just being thrown into classrooms to substitute, or, our fellows are going to be thrown into ELD, and that actually is some of the best learning that happens. And if you've got those supports of strong advisors and a strong team, that makes all the difference. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, Harper. I really appreciate it. It's great to hear from someone who has been through the program and is now on the other side and is an advisor. So appreciate the perspective that you bring. Okay, now I have our video. So we're just going to watch a quick video on the Relay experience. If my computer will behave, there we go.
Relay's philosophy and approach to teaching teachers is unique and exciting. What we want to do is get teachers better, faster. So we do that by focusing on proven, highly effective strategies and techniques that teachers can use tomorrow to move the needle for the kids in their classroom.
When I came to Relay, I had already been teaching for 3 years. So in my 4th year, I was really curious to see what Relay could offer me as a program and as a master's degree. And what I was really pleased to see over time was that it really helped me break down my teaching into every potential aspect, from classroom setup to thinking about culturally responsive teaching. And it just made me that much more intentional about every single part of my planning and execution in my classroom. And I would also say that my favorite part of Relay was just being a part of a community of educators.
Our curriculum is actually designed to support collaboration. Graduate students are constantly pushing each other to be better through feedback protocols, through practice protocols, through lesson plan sharing.
The idea is to provide our teachers with an opportunity to train before they stand in front of the classroom and deliver instruction.
Parallel, stay slow. Stay slow. Stay slow.
My experience at Relay Graduate School of Education was awesome. It made me a better person, a better teacher. It made me more conscious of how I was approaching the whole art of teaching.
Going to Relay has helped me to understand who I am as a teacher and to develop my teaching practice and what it is that makes me me in the classroom.
Relay's mission is to empower educators to develop in all their students the knowledge, skills, and character to succeed in college and in life. We're about making teachers who can get kids learning faster tomorrow.
So now that we've heard from Harper and we've heard from Relay a little bit more about the Relay experience, I would love to hear how you feel Relay's philosophy aligns with RMP's, and then also what makes Relay different from other teacher preparation programs that some of you might be familiar with. So once again, let's hear from 2 people and 2 different people, please.
I think it's just different because you actually get more direct experience as a fellow. I know, like in a traditional teacher preparation program, you get, just your student teaching semester, and that's not always enough. Especially at the beginning of the year, you miss that whole section of like, how do you even start building those routines and trust? You kind of come in halfway through the year whenever all the hard work is almost done. So that's a big difference, which is positive.
I see a lot of nodding out there.
Yeah, kind of to build off of that too. Like, I really wish that I had known about Relay when I was going through my teaching program, because I feel like once I was done with it, which was like more of the traditional teaching program, I was like thrown into school, and I feel like I was lost. And especially those like that first year, I like definitely felt like I was drowning half that year.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, we definitely want to avoid that, both for our fellows and for our kids, because it can be really challenging for kids too when they have teachers that don't feel super prepared and are just thrown in front of the classroom. So definitely agree. Does anyone want to share how they see alignment between Relay's philosophy and Rocky Mountain Preps?
I think it's, for me, seeing like how much preparation is going into it, and making sure that teachers are getting coached frequently is something that's so different than my experience with going through my elementary education preparation. And just like there's constant feedback, and it's a gradual release program, but like demanding excellence, in lack of a better term, of like we have high expectations, and making sure we are providing our fellows with the opportunities to meet those expectations over the course of the year.
Definitely agree, Nikki. Thanks for sharing. I think we'll see a ton of alignment too with deliberate practice when fellows are taking the lesson plans that they're actually going to be teaching to kids the next week, and they're going to be practicing teaching them, which is something that we do all the time at RMP. Okay, so now I'm just going to give you this rubric here in a minute, and it's the Gateway 1 rubric. And while you're reviewing it, we'll take 3 minutes, again, similar protocol to last time. In what ways do you think mindsets will show? I want you to be thinking, in what ways do you think mindsets will show up in the virtual classroom? In meetings, in PD, and then also the same questions for expectations. And then be thinking through, how can you support your fellow with their mindsets and expectations? And once again, I'm going to put up a collab board for questions while you're reading, and we'll have some partner time afterwards as well. And you can continue to add questions when you are debriefing with your partner. So we have these questions in the note catcher as well. And now we have the collab board, and I will share bottom lines after you've had a chance to review the rubric. So let's go 3 minutes. I will play some music for us. And then once you hear the music go off, that's gonna let us know that we're gonna go into our breakout rooms, and then we'll come back together. Thanks, Abby, for chatting that out. And how can you as the advisor support them? As well, and update you at PD. So this year is different. You will be filling out a survey for those of us returners. Just so you know, this year is different. You'll be filling out a survey instead of filling out the rubric to assess the fellows' progress towards Gateway 1. And then this year we're also going to have 2 midpoint check-ins. And instead of you filling out the rubric separately, you will maybe not sit down actually, but virtually sit down with your fellow and they're going to go through the rubric, and they're going to reflect out loud, and you're going to give feedback at that time and go through the rubric together with these 2 questions in mind. Where does the fellow want and need to grow, and how can you as the advisor support them? And I just want to call out that rubrics should never be the first place that a fellow hears feedback on expectations and mindsets. If you notice something, if you notice, like say your fellow calls on the same 3 people every time they teach, that's something you need to talk to them about in the moment. Just like we want to make sure that we're not practicing incorrectly, we also want to make sure we're addressing expectations and mindsets head on instead of waiting until we have this time to reflect. And then before giving feedback on this rubric, think, how can you approach this with equity, since as advisors, you all are coming from a position of power, and I want to keep that in mind. And then my next part is that we're going to discuss with the partner, and then once again, feel free to add your questions to the CoLab board while you're talking with your partners. We're going to have similar partners to from before. Abby, I think we might have had a couple of people hop off, so you might have a different partner, have an additional person in your group. So thank you all for being flexible. And then Abby Natasha's got ahead to help with registration too. So we will make sure someone else, that no one's left alone in a breakout room. So, all right. Sounds great. Point check-ins and other tasks. Thanks, Alex, for asking. I will update it in the relay report. So make sure that you are reading the relay report thoroughly, because it will always have updates for what's coming up in the next couple of weeks and for any deadlines as well. And then what will the focus be for pre-K fellows content if we do return in person? So Alex and Kayla, I'd love to work with you on that, just since I'm not as familiar with the ECE content, and I think looping Callan in could be great as well. I know I met with her this week and she was really excited about some of the different contents that you all are teaching this year, and we can decide together what we think would be best for fellows to teach.
Is that something that we'll talk about in that meeting tomorrow, or would that be something that we would need to schedule another time for?
That's a great question. I think we'll see what we get through in our meeting tomorrow, and if we need to schedule an additional meeting, we will schedule an additional meeting. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Alex. Okay. And now, what came up in your partner time? What ideas did you have about supporting your fellows with their mindsets and expectations? What different things came up when you were talking with your partner? You can also unmute yourself and ask questions at this time.
Me and Nikki were just talking about how to best support our fellows and make sure that we're kind of getting this like holistic view of how teaching is going for them, because we'll either be having to pop in or having them record, whereas normally we would be in the classroom with them all the time, so we could really get like this full picture of how they're doing. And so yeah, just wanting to like think through that so it feels like really fair when we're you know, going over the rubric together, and that they feel like seen by us and supported.
Thanks for thinking about that, Harper. I love that part, like thinking about them feeling seen as well, since it's going to be a very different context. What else was coming up? What ideas did you all have?
One thing that Bethany, Laura, and I were curious about is if we're going to be able to review fellows' videos, since we are scheduled to digitally teach at the same time as our fellows. Are we going to be able to review the recordings so we can give them authentic feedback, or is it going to be a logistical thing where we ask our coaches to come in and cover for us so we can go observe our fellows?
I think that's a really great question. I'm going to write that down because I hadn't even thought about like a coach coming in and teaching for you and you going and observing. And I think that's a great idea. So I'm going to make sure I write that down. And I will follow up with you on that during the coaching section, since I think once I find some of these answers, it's also going to be really beneficial for our advisors who are coaching ATs to hear as well. So thank you for asking that, Chelsea. I appreciate it.
One thing we also talked about was just knowing that like observing is going to be really important, and that we have to like take advantage of those opportunities, because when we're in person, there are so many like natural opportunities to observe our fellow, whether it's just like informal conversations with students and you see like how they're handling those interactions, or how they're like leading morning meeting and those moments, but we won't get to spend as much time with them knowing that they have a different schedule. So I like knowing that this will be coming up. I don't want it to feel like that's the only time we're having a conversation with them. So I want to hold myself accountable to look for those opportunities to observe and give feedback so that it feels like a constant flow of communication.
Thanks, Laura. Okay. So we are going to go into some advisor buddy time. And this is replacing something like an advisor panel. So we are super lucky. We have a lot of people who I know have advised and coached in the past, but I know that Bethany and Kat have specifically coached and been advisors for fellows who've been a part of the Relay program. And so we're going to have a lower L teacher group go with Bethany and an upper L teacher group go with Kat. And I know like that a lot of people are bringing in a lot of different expertise around coaching and advising. So please also like share your ideas during this time. But I have come up with a list of sample questions to ask if you're looking for questions, but be thinking, what questions do you have about the advisor role and about specifically coaching a fellow who's part of the Relay program? So let's take 30 seconds and gather our questions. And then you can also be thinking about some things from coaching experiences in the past that have just been like dynamite, and please share those with your group as well.
Yeah, like maybe even not like a lengthy meeting and just like a resource share or something, you know, because we're
Hi.
It is
here. So thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day and week if I don't get to see you tomorrow. You never know though.
Hey, Mahela.
Hey.
So in